Hey guys.
Hello.
Hey, I'm Sanjo with Lifestyle by Marla, and this is
Marla.
with Lifestyle by Marla.
Hey, hi.
So, hey, welcome to
Go lay down.
another topic of PTSD, right?
Our dog is going crazy right
Yeah.
now.
What
Go
a
lay down.
crazy mutt. All right, so I want to talk about specifically like Lost in this area this time, right? And how certain seasons could strike up or bring up the memories of the past to the veteran or to the one who's struggling. It doesn't even have to be the veteran, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
So cool.
you know, I know. So, like I don't know. We all have had loss and struggles in our lives, but for a veteran, has been overseas. There's a lot of there's a lot of like dreams that you hold that you get when you get to know the guys out there on the battlefield, well, whatever environment it is, police department, firefighting, first responders, and so on and so forth. When you get to know them, when you start talking to them, we talk about our dreams. I mean, it's inevitable. We're out here, somehow something with life and death, and kind of gives you that alignment of what's important in life, what you want to do instead of where you are and what you are currently doing. Unless, if you're a first responder, you're doing what you want to do already, and it's amazing. But the guys that you are there with are in the, we call the fighting hole, the firefox, fighter hole with you, and there's a connection, there's a bond that you develop with these individual people, right? So for me, during this time, it's Halloween, it's the 31st, and unfortunately for me, there's been people that I've lost like every holiday that the Americans celebrate, right? So it's like an anniversary that always reoccurs and keeps coming back. And it's usually, it hits you when you least expect it. Because I'm not thinking of Halloween. Heck, we almost forgot that today was Halloween. So it's October 31st. It's on Thursday. We're thinking Friday. We're thinking weekend, associating all the weekends. But my mood changes. I depressed. I start focusing on just random death-like thoughts. A lot of it just is a well of anger and hatred just welling up and building up. And I start looking, and I start getting that that 1,000-yard stare, that glare, that fog of war, so to speak. If you understand what that means, it's just basically it just casts me back into a time and a place where I felt that. Where that was most potent in my life.
Right, so today we're going to be talking about PTSD and holidays and how it just doesn't mesh up sometimes. I'm thinking, hey, it's holiday. It's, as we get ready for Thanksgiving and fall is my favorite. I absolutely love Thanksgiving and fall and all the, we live in Arizona, so the leaves don't really change, but, like the decor, all that stuff, and all that happens to be a trigger for him. So that it doesn't mesh up sometimes. So I have to be understanding of where he's at, and it doesn't mean that I can't put up my decor. It doesn't mean that it was just a matter of understanding where he was at in that moment. Like when he is looking dazed out and he's looking angry and he's looking just like that stare off in the distance. I now know that he's being triggered. I now know that there's something there. I don't have to fight it. I don't have to, get him to understand how much I love fall and why is he ruining this for me, because that's what I used to do. I used to throw it at him and be like, you just hate fall because I love fall, and you just hate Christmas because I love Christmas. And it became this thing where it was just like I was personalizing every single thing that I loved. I was thinking he hated. And that created a wedge and a rift between us because we were like, I thought he was on some completely agenda to ruin what I loved, and that was not the case at all. I had to come to terms with the fact that that's not what was happening. And I had to come to terms with the fact that he was struggling in this time. So through my love for it, I have to also be understanding of where he's at, what he's dealing with on the inside. It may not be like joyous occasion for him, but it's something that he struggles with. Now, does he really put his best foot forward? Yes, now he does. But it was back then when we were figuring out this PTSD thing, it was really a struggle because like every holiday I dreaded. Every holiday.
And she said something that's important too. It's just understanding that you recognize it and you give that space, that time, right? Because my intention was not to ruin her day. I mean, between fall and Christmas, she goes bananas, and to me, she's bring all this joy and excitement, and like I said, all this joy and excitement.
There's so much sparkle. There's just so much sparkle in the world, like in my heart, I feel. But so I'm like, yay, happy joy, yes. And like sweater weather and the weather actually cooling down is a trigger for him. So, like all the things I love, 5%.
Yeah, no.
is the things that we struggle with.
So yeah. Well, go ahead and continue. I'm going to go get the chart.
Okay. So as we were thinking of like another PTSD episode to do, I was like, you know what? I think it's really important with today being Halloween, as the holidays approach, it's not always a beautiful thing. It's not always this family gets together and, we decorate the house and we wrap presents. And, I'm going to be super honest with you. There were times when there were holidays 3 weeks in a row. It wasn't just the day, all right? It was everything that surrounded the day. So there was, I want to say in 2012, in 2012 that we got in a well, there's the wall. In 2012 we got in a really big outstanding argument, and it was a 3-week ordeal. And that was when I didn't, he just came back in 2011. So this was only a year after he had been back. And I'm thinking okay, it was from December, right after Thanksgiving, all the way to Christmas, through Christmas, that we were struggling big time. And it was a huge eye opener, because I thought that was going to be the end of our marriage. Honestly, I thought that those 4 weeks, because it was so bad. He didn't want to go anywhere. He kept saying mean things. He kept, his whole attitude and demeanor, because, I'm happy and trying to put up the tree and let's do this as a family and it's such a great time, was not a great time for him.
Yeah, and honestly, around this time we just struggle. It's not intentional, It's not like we planned to ruin the wonderful day. I had no idea that I was actually ruining it. I'm like, you know what? I had the awareness enough to say, I didn't want to be in doing all these activities, because I knew that I was going through something. I didn't quite fully understand it, but I know I was going through something. I did not want to be involved in ruining it for her. But of course, for her, it's a family thing, so I have to be incorporated in it. And here I'm struggling with what I'm struggling with,
right? And
she is all about all this excitement, and I'm like, I don't want to be
going to the event, going out to eat after the event, taking the kids here and there, going to ice skate, going to where all these crowds gather around these times. And we talked earlier in an earlier episode, crowds are not his thing. When you have PTSD, crowds are not your thing.
Yeah, because
it's not.
You can't be aware of like what's coming and where it's coming from.
Right. So that was another thing. Like we had to come to an understanding, and it took a lot of listening. Ladies or gentlemen who are struggling with somebody with PTSD, it takes a lot of listening and going against your preconceived ideas. My preconceived idea was that he was trying to ruin everything for me. Okay, that might sound really selfish. That might sound whatever, but that's where I was at. And to be completely honest, I thought he was just trying to ruin everything for me because this is what I loved and whatever. But that wasn't the case. So I had to kill all my preconceived ideas, and I also had to come to a place of understanding, a ground of understanding, where we could both stand on this ground and hear each other out. So he had to hear me and how much I love these holidays. He had to hear what these holidays meant to me, and I had to hear him of how he felt around these holidays. Because I was like, this can't be normal. This cannot be our normal thing where every holiday, 4th of July, Veterans Day, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, even the small holidays, Memorial Day, things like that. Like those things were all triggers, all of them. And I came to a place where I was like, I can't live like this. I cannot live my life just constantly going up and down, just wondering when the next time he's going to flip, just because I'm happy about something. So it came to, this is where we were at. We had to come to a place, a platform where we heard each other and where we put away our preconceived ideas.
Right. And for me, it was last week that I was actually going through it, and we got into a fight because again, it's not like it's on my radar to gauge, this is coming up.
Right.
It's just the atmosphere, and for some whatever reason, I may be here and working with you and understanding, and suddenly just tank. And then it's like, what the hell's going on? You're freaking out, you're starting getting into fights, we're screaming and yelling. So much, in fact, that our daughter had to write a letter to us saying, hey, you guys are fighting a lot. You guys need to stop. Right. And this is my 9-year-old daughter. She's like,
And mind you, this is just last week, guys. Okay? This is just last week. All right? So this is a huge time to say we still work through it. We are still struggling through it. We haven't arrived. We are just giving you tips and tools to maybe put in your ear so you can be aware. So you can kind of like think about the surrounding things,
Yeah, and I don't know, my kids are my heart. I don't know how it is for anybody else, but they could pierce my armor better than anybody else, including her, because when she's like, you guys are fighting a lot and this is what's going on and this is how it makes me feel, I'm like, as a father, I'm like, oh man, shoot.
Like there's no denying it.
Yeah, it really is and she took the time to write it in a letter and says, I need you both to read this.
And she stood there while we read it.
She's my daughter. Oh my God.
She was going to
expect what you expect. That child is learning that lesson well.
She was not going to leave until we
it had to be read out loud too. It was quietly read to yourself and make your comments.
And it was a whole front and back in between. Like she folded the paper. It was like 1 page, 2 page, and then the back of that page too. So
she had a lot to say,
She had a lot to say.
And that's one of the things I've created the environment where she could come and talk to me.
Right.
Any of my kids can come and talk to me, and I make sure I give them that attention. And I told her, come and talk to me about anything. If I would have crushed it then, I would have irreparable damage, right?
Right.
But so that's one of the things you just got to work through. I had to work through. I'm like, okay, my daughter slapped me in the face to wake me up, right? And so I had to get my attitude in check. I'm like, okay, I got to fake it till I make it. And and then I had to go and apologize to the wife in front of the girls, because if they see it happening and they hear it happening, I'm loud. It's not gonna. Even when I'm quiet,
I'm so loud.
Okay, even when I'm quiet, I'm loud, right?
I'm like, can't you whisper while you fight?
I am whispering. That is my indoor whisper voice, which sounds like this.
I was like, stop yelling. He's like, I'll show you yelling. I'm like, no.
So, but the thing is, just remember, You just gotta be patient. And we've gotten, although we fought last week, right? We've gotten so much better about it. You know, she said 4 weeks of fighting because it would literally start, if it started on Halloween, it would hit into Thanksgiving, and which would lead into, because it's like each time we fought and argued, it grew.
It would just carry
to the next holiday, because then I'm not dreading the next holiday, and I'm like, well, and then New Year's happens, and it's just like, well, people throwing up fireworks and celebrating this. I'm thinking, dude, I've lost so many people.
Nowadays, like fireworks, it seems like every holiday there's fireworks. It's not just New Year's and July 4th. It's Halloween. Like people were doing fireworks last week, and it wasn't even Halloween day. It was like it was for trunk or treats or whatever. So the point of the matter is, we still struggle, but we've come a long way. And you have got to recognize your progress. If you are not where you were, if you were not where you were 2 years ago, you're further ahead, but you're not perfect. We're not saying perfect. Perfection is overrated. Okay, so we're not saying you got to be perfect, but every step is better than where you were.
Yeah, and this is just an encouragement thing out there for you guys, and to make you aware. Be like, okay, well, hey, maybe my mood has been changing because something's going on. I don't know what's going on. Let's identify what's happening. Okay.
Right. And I think it's important to not expect, to not expect everybody, like you with the person of PTSD. You may be going through a moment, but we were going through a moment last week, and our 9-year-old daughter still felt safe enough to come talk to us.
Right.
To come bring something to our attention. I think there's power in that. I really think so, because if she wasn't brave enough to do that, if we didn't allow that door to still be open, even though we were struggling, then she would feel shut out. She wouldn't be sharing her emotion with us. She wouldn't be allowing us to see what she sees. You see what I'm saying? So always make sure that as you're struggling, you're still allowing the people you love most to speak into your life.
And that's it. I think that's a perfect way to end this introduction of it.
Yeah.
It's just an awareness, because it's a holiday,
right?
And someone may have been lost to you close to this holiday, and you don't know why you've got a cloud over your head, right?
Yeah, go lay down.
And it could be simply that, like, it's a sad time, but you can work through it. Now, luckily for me, I have family that could help me work through that and keep me focused on the prize,
right?
But this is to tell you there's hope. Mm-hmm. We still struggle, but we have worked on it. We've cut down 3 weeks into a week. So maybe progress. Next time it might be a day, and it wasn't as severe of a fight as last time.
Right. There's those fights where you fight real bad, and then you take weeks to recover from that. That was how we used to fight. We would create so much damage in our fighting that we would take weeks and weeks and sometimes even months to recover. Do you know how many wedges we put in there? Like just wedge after wedge after wedge, creating this huge wall to separate us, So be careful of that, okay? Don't create more wedges. Don't make such an argument or a fight to where you have to recover for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, okay?
Right. So, hey, good luck.
We're praying for you.
Yeah, we're praying for you. Hopefully this works out. Hopefully this gives you something to think about, and, get out there. Be happy for somebody else. Fake it till you make it.
Right.
Or if you don't have any of those, my dog's just going bananas here. Just think of the other person and put their needs before yours.
Yes.
Do the selfless act. And, have a great holiday. Have a great Halloween, and we'll go ahead and hit this up again on
next week.
Next week we'll keep doing these, and hopefully it will reach somebody's heart.
Yeah. Share with anybody that might be struggling with PTSD. Bye, guys.
Yeah.